Welcome to Heal In, Gift of Love, episode 10.3, Friday, the 5th of March, 2021. I'm going to use Brahms' Fourth Symphony, the fourth movement, as background as we read from Opening the Door to Bon Nyima Dapkpa, Chapter 2, the proper way to receive the teachings. Before receiving the teachings, it is essential to prepare oneself by having a pure attitude and motivation of genuine compassion from the heart. As an example, in order for a farmer to expect a good crop, it is important to have fertilized the soil. When there is good soil, one can plant and things will grow. If the soil is not good, then whatever one plants will not grow. In the same way, the student's motivation has to be very pure and proper in order to increase positive energy, understand the wisdom of the teachings, and benefit all those with whom you come in contact. To benefit all sentient beings is the motivation. There are two necessary attitudes or motivations: the pure attitude of the enlightened ones and the Tantric way to purify one's views. So there's the pure attitude and then the Tantric way to purify one's views. So you reach for the highest, but if you fall short, you want to purify your views. It's like this, it's equivalent to overcoming a sexual desire. When it's there, it's very hard to shake it, and when it's just really got you in its grip. Pure attitude of the enlightened ones. Both teacher and student need to have the pure attitude of the enlightened ones. It is important to look within and consider whether one wishes to receive the teachings in order to achieve worldly fame and reputation, gain higher rebirth in the God realms due to fear of suffering in the three lower realms, or liberate oneself from this cyclic existence of suffering. Wishing to liberate only oneself is considered to be the lowest level of these incorrect attitudes. If you have any of these wrong or negative attitudes, you must transform them first by thinking, for instance, that in the short period of this lifetime, it is not worth benefiting only myself. It is essential for me to overcome the suffering of this cyclic world in order to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. It is important to understand that from the very beginning of your past lives until today, all sentient beings have somehow been connected to you, perhaps as your mother or father, grandmother, grandfather, sister, brother, wife, child, beloved friend, combat fellow veteran, someone who survived great suffering. When they were your parents, they took kind and loving care of you, offering you the most delicious food, covering you with the softest clothes, just as your present parents likely did and do. Because you have been a child of all these sentient beings, it is important to realize that you have a responsibility to lead and liberate them from the suffering of this existing world. All sentient beings dislike suffering, but each negative action of their mind, body, and speech cultivates more causes of suffering. Without realizing it, they may follow the wrong path and thus experience endless suffering. They do not have the knowledge they need to practice the teachings, so they cannot be liberated from this condition without help. Therefore, it is essential to generate positive thoughts toward all sentient beings by thinking they must be liberated and freed from their negative karma. To do this, to generate the positive thoughts toward all sentient beings, thinking that they must be liberated as well and freed from all their negative karmas. To do this, one needs to receive the teachings and commit to one's practice with the goal of achieving enlightenment We call this embodying the attitude of enlightenment, and then you add to that the goal of seeking enlightenment for the benefit of the liberation and self-liberation of all sentient beings. The teacher needs to have a positive motivation for giving the teaching. He should teach in order to benefit his students and all sentient beings. These teachings will not be effective if the teacher does not have this attitude. A quotation from Drimé Sidid, one of the largest biographies of the founder of the Bon tradition, Tampa Shenrab. That's Tonpa, capital Shenrab. Tampa Shenrab, the founder of the Bon tradition that predates Buddhism, that became merged or was upon which was superimposed Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism. Tampa Shenrab, a quotation from the biography. Without compassion and the right attitude to giving the teachings in order to benefit the disciples and all sentient beings, it is rather like a donkey wearing a tiger skin to look like a tiger. The three essential qualities of a teacher include having trust and devotion toward his own teacher and past lineage masters, having compassion for all sentient beings, and having perfect knowledge of Bon. The three essential qualities of a teacher must include having trust and devotion towards his own teacher and past lineage masters, having compassion for all sentient beings, and having perfect knowledge of Bon. Without trust and devotion to the lineage masters and his root teacher, he will not be blessed by his teachers and past lamas. Without trust and devotion to the lineage masters and his root teacher, he will not be blessed by his teachers and past lamas. With these qualities, he will have the blessing and power to help his students detach themselves from the suffering of samsara. It is also important that the teacher have compassion and a good attitude toward the teachings. For example, the great hermit Gongzog Ritod Khenpo always did prayers and requested blessings by first repeating the name of his teacher, and only then did he start teaching. If a teacher lacks compassion for sentient beings, he will not have the ability to generate the goodwill necessary to benefit students and others by his teachings. If he is seeking only fame and reputation, he will be unable to guide his students on the pathway to enlightenment. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? So you have a great many pitfalls, potentially. So if a teacher lacks compassion for sentient beings, he will not have the ability to generate the goodwill necessary to benefit students and others. If he's seeking fame and reputation, he'll be unable to guide them to enlightenment. Without perfect knowledge of Bon in general, and of a special topic of expertise in particular, the student may not be able to properly interpret the lesson, the meaning of the teachings. If students do not receive the teachings with the correct attitude and understanding that are essential for developing their practice, then they will not achieve realization. The Tantric way of purifying one's views. The second important attitude is the Tantric way of purifying one's views, which means to transform one's ordinary and dualistic views and conceptions into a higher spiritual vision. For instance, you transform the place where teachings are received from an ordinary classroom into a complete and perfected mandala. Of the deities, you view the teacher as the perfect form of Shenla Okar, the Buddha of compassion, by mentally transforming him from an ordinary person into an enlightened one who is manifested in a human body to guide all sentient beings. You transform your companions and classmates from ordinary beings into deities and goddesses, and believe that they all have love, compassion, and care for all sentient beings. All right, perhaps we should close there. Well, we'll close when we finish reading the Tantric way of purifying one's views, and keep these segments to 10 to 15 minutes because they're dense. And to get anything out of them, you've got to stop what you're doing otherwise and concentrate on the very words. The second important attitude is the Tantric way of purifying one's views, transforming one's ordinary and dualistic views into a higher spiritual wisdom. In other words, you could transform the ordinary classroom, into a perfected mandala of the deities. You view your teacher as the pure form of a perfect one, of a Buddha of compassion, by mentally transforming him or her from an ordinary into an enlightened person who has manifested in a human body to guide all sentient beings. You transform your companions and classmates from ordinary beings into deities and goddesses, and believe that they all have love, compassion, and care for all sentient beings. The purpose of transforming your views into pure visions toward these objects is to realize the extraordinary nature of this experience. This gives you a special reason to receive the blessings and powers from the teacher, the enlightened ones, the deities, and the female manifestations of the enlightened ones, Kadro, in order to develop your wisdom and stability. This is the essence. This is the essence of the practice of purifying one's view according to the Tantric ways. To achieve maximum benefit, the practitioner must generate both the motivation of the enlightened one and the motivation of the secret Sangyang. Well, let's find out what that is. Before receiving the teachings, to achieve maximum benefit, the practitioner must generate both the motivation of the enlightenment and the motivation of the secret. Okay, we'll find out what that is. Before receiving the teachings, doing practices, and receiving empowerment or oral transmission, before doing so, the teacher should make the student should start his practice each time with these motivations. So the benefits of practice will be multiplied. Pure motivation provides the student with good conditions for the teachings to take root and blossom into enlightenment. If you lack pure motivation, then impure and deluded thoughts may destroy any good results of your practice. It is important to correct and purify any improper attitudes and motives. All right, so let's do the proper motivation of students and conclude. Let's do this. We'll finish in 15 minutes and a half, probably. Proper motivation of students. The essence of Bon teachings is based on compassion, love, nonviolence, and loving kindness. If you practice accordingly, you will obtain a better understanding of your own nature and the nature of all phenomena. In other words, the ultimate goal of practice is to discover your natural state of mind and to achieve enlightenment. Discovering your true nature is essential to purifying your negative thoughts, the poisons which are influenced. Your thoughts are influenced thereby by these poisons, these energies representing something less than human, something subhuman, something animal, ignorant, selfish like a hungry ghost, or attached like a hungry ghost, something prideful like a demigod, something lazy and slothful, perhaps too attached and like one of the gods, or something envious like the demigod, too prideful like the gods, hateful like the hell beings. Well, In other words, the ultimate goal of practice is to discover the natural state of mind and to achieve enlightenment. Discovering your true nature is essential to purifying your negative thoughts, which are influenced by the 5 poisons: attachment, anger, ignorance, jealousy, and pride. The ability to generate clear thoughts helps you to be of benefit to other sentient beings and give you a meaningful purpose to your life. As an example, we can be like a lotus flower, which is beautiful. Even though it is growing in the mud, its beauty is never affected by its surroundings. As we are born into the miserable conditions of this cyclic existence, we need emphasize how to overcome or free ourselves from suffering. By applying the teachings to our everyday practice, we are not governed, we are not affected by the poisons of this world. By applying the teachings to our everyday practice, we are not affected by the poisons of this world. The teachings of Bon are like a mirror that is able to reflect the appearance of objects. In the same way, through practice, you will be able to notice and realize the influence of negative thoughts and the 5 poisons, and therefore mindfully control and subdue them. Use the practice as a mirror to reflect your inner self. The more you are able to overcome or subdue negative thoughts, the more you will improve your understanding and the level of your practice. And so then after this, within this chapter, the proper way to receive Bon teachings, chapter 2, we'll pick up on page 24. Qualities required of students, qualities to avoid, 9 faults to avoid. Then we have these lists to remind us: qualities to achieve, knowledge of holding, of understanding, of realization, qualities to be cultivated by the teacher. And we'll pick that up next time. Thank you.